government in any given society, there must be conflict. And in any system, any governance, conflict makes that government to be stronger. What do you do as a leader? As somebody who has the knowledge of government, somebody who is trained to lead politically, in any democratic dispensations, you must right the wrong. You must appreciate conflict. You must welcome conflict. And you must handle or you must manage conflict the way it ought to have been managed, so that it will not escalate. The moment conflict is given opportunity not to be managed and given opportunity to be escalated, it is going to be in problem. That system, that administration is going to be in problem. That's why we are now saying government is the study of conflict and conflict resolutions. The study of conflicts. We must study what brings about this case. What are the causes? What is the case for? And what brought about it? And how do we approach the issue? All these things needs to be tackled. We need to tackle each and every one of these problems, because there are so materials to whatever we are doing. Then, the fifth definition of of government, is that government is a study of political behavior of people and the body politics. Government is a study of political behavior of people and the body politics. Yes. As when we're talking about government has to do with the political behavior of people. Because government is the one controlling the politics. Politics only stand as a vessel through which an actor or a politician gets to the destination. But the body that rules, the body that controls is government. And in government, all political machineries are assured. All weapons used to control, used to counter any aggression are there. All arrangements are in place. You must study the political behavior of people, their move, right from the time a particular candidate registers, right from the time he wants to contest as a candidate on a political platform or on a party system. Governments continue to do what? To study their behavior. As we are going around for electioneering, and as we are going out for election campaign, many will be looking at you. The government will be looking at you to see what do you have. Who are you? Is this person credible? Is he qualified? Is he good enough? Is he representative? All these factors must be considered, must be debated, must be discussed around you. And at the end of the day, before the election day, people should be able to decide through the votes or through their votes who is worthy to take the cab at the end of the day. But aside all these definitions, it was very clear that the definition given above is not enough. Meanwhile, in government, there are three approaches to the definition of government. The first approach says government is an institution of the state. 2, government is an academic field of studies the method of governing. These are two worldwide acceptable definitions of government. Now, I am going to break them one after the other. We are going to take government as an institution of the state. When we say government is an institution of the state, what are we talking about? What are we talking about? We are talking about a body that makes rules and enforce it in a given state. If we are talking about government as an institution of the state, we are talking about a body that makes rules, enforce it in a given state. And when we are talking about the institutions, institution in government means organs. When we talk about institutions in government, we are referring to the organs of government. What are these bodies that make law, that implement it? Number one, under this institution of the state, we have what? Legislation. Number two, we have executive. Number three, we have judiciary. When we talk about government as an institution of the state, government, the number one institution known to a state is to make a law. How do we make a law? In any political setting, in any democratic dispensation, there must be an organ, and the first organ is legislation. Legislature or legislation or legislative arms are the body that make law for people. The law-making organs of the government is known as legislative assembly. Is known as legislative council. In the local government, we have what we call legislative council of the local government. We call them councillors, the honorable councillors for each of the ward. Councillors at the local government level are known as the lawmakers. Councillors at the local government level are known as the lawmakers. At the state level, the legislative house there or the legislative assembly there is known as state lawmakers. State lawmakers from each of the state constituencies. Any law pertaining to the states, if a law or a bill is sponsored from a particular individual, from a particular ward or constituency, that should be sponsored and that should be supported by motion. If it succeeds on arrival, automatically it will be debated for first reading, second reading, and before the approval. When it is being approved and become a law, that means it stands as a law that everybody must comply. At the federal level, we have what we call National Assembly or the Parliament. And when we talk about the National Assembly, we are talking about the legislative arm of the nation. We have upper house and the lower house. The upper house stands for the House of Senate, and the lower house stands for the House of Representatives. At the upper house, their leader is the Senate President, and at the lower house, their leader is the Speaker of the House of Representatives. These are what we call institution of the state, as in the first approaches to the definition of government. As in the first approaches to the definition of government. The second approach says that government is a study of academic fields, or government as an academic field of studies, discourse. The second approaches to the definition of government says government as an academic field of studies. That is what we want to discuss now. When we talk about government as an academic field of studies, we are talking about government as a political science. And when we talk about political science is a study of how to acquire, consolidate power to control or to attain individual and collective goals or responsibilities. When we talk about political science is a discipline that has to do with how to acquire, to consolidate, and get power to attain individual and collective objectives, goals, or responsibilities. And under this academic field of studies, we have many branches of government. I want you to understand very well that under this academic field of studies, we are trying to understand that it has to do with government. And government means political science. And now under this government or political science, we have about few branches of government or political science. What are they? Number one, under government as a branch, under political science as a branch, what I want you to do is, what I'm trying to talk now is like government and post science. That is what academic field of studies means. Academic fields of studies. If we are talking about an academic field of studies, we are referring to what? We are referring to the study of government and political science. And under this study of government and political science, we have a branch. We have many branches, but we are now going to start with one branch. The branch is known as public administration. And when we are talking about public administration as a discipline on its own, it has to do with the training of high-level administrator or high-level manpower to cater for public and civil service, either at the local government, at the state level, and at the federal level. We have civil servants or we have public servants. This is what public administration is all about. Public administration is all about the government itself, the government and its enterprise. If you are a staff under government parastatals, if you are a staff under government ministries, you are either a civil servant or a public servant. At the federal level, at the state level, at the local government level. 2, there is what we call international relations and diplomacy. International relations and diplomacy is another branch of government. This is the training of diplomats, the training of high-level diplomats who are made to represent the high commissions, the embassy, foreign services, and external affairs. When talk about international relations, it has to do with how nations, how countries of different classes will now come together to brainstorm, to discuss about their individual countries. If a particular country is lacking behind either political or economical aspects, the advantage of more countries coming together will be of immense help. If country A is deficient in oil and country B is sufficient in oil, the possibility of exchanging what a particular country does not have is there. And these are the reasons for what we call international relations. And for any relationship to exist, there must be a mutual understanding between the parties. For any trade like international or foreign trade to take place, there must be cooperation. Even ordinarily, as a family relations, boyfriend or girlfriend, there must be a mutual understanding between the parties. If parties cannot understand each other, it is not possible for them to exist. That's why the study of international relations is important to every nation in the whole world. For example, if Nigeria is having problem politically today, as an added reader or listener of news, if you are always watching the screen at any broadcast, we always hear about Nigerians using US as an example. In the USA, it is not done like this. If a parliament is having a seat or is sitting, this, that, President Obama, President this, President that, because we believe they have the political advantage. They are the front liner of governance, of political administration. So that is a good example of what we call international relations. Another one is what we call political philosophy. Political philosophy is another branch of government. It's another branch of political science. When we are talking about the political philosophy, we are talking about the political thinkers. We are talking about the political thoughts. People who can sit down and think the right thing to be done. Who can listen. Who can decide about the fact finding of the truth that can help the state. If there's any confusion in the state today, if there's any puzzling in the state, these are the classes of people needed to come and decide. The political decides, known as political philosophers. Another one is what we call local government administration. Local government administration is also a branch of government or political science. It has to do with the training of administrators at the grassroots of the government, because local government is the grassroots, is the beginning. We must start from the local government. This is where citizens are close to. Citizens are not close to states. They are not close to federal. But when we have local government, dwindling down to the district localities, you can see that they are very close to the people of the states. And there still be to train high level of administrators so that they can now manage, especially the secretary to the local government, we call it secretariats, and even the treasuries, all the accounting officers and the administrators, admin officers. There should be adequate training for them so that they should now know how local government should be managed and be controlled. Then the last approach to the definition of government is the method of governing. The method of governing. That means the governing, there should be proper way of governance. Government must ensure that rules and regulations are kept. The human rights must not be abused. And the government must ensure that nobody is above the law. And the method of governance should be in accordance. And accountability should always count. Government should not believe that they are all and all. Government should believe that yes, they are together. To this end, we are now going to move on to why do we study governments? And if that question should come up as to why we study governments, that is another aspect. After the definition of, we first treated nature and scope, we treated definitions of politics, we treated governments and its definitions. Now, the next now is why study governments. That is functions. The next level now is why study governments? Why do we study governments? Or why do we have governments? Yes. Why do we have governments? Not study first. Study should come the second. Why having government? Why do we have governments? Yes. Why do we have government? Is different from why do we study government. If we are now saying why do we have government, is meaning what are the functions of government. One of the functions of government is all about policy making, initiating the policy. When we are talking about policy making, it should be the first thing, the first assignment of the government to make policies. It is from the policies that laws can be splitted. The law guiding this, the law guiding that, law guiding employment, law guiding buying and selling, law guiding marriage, law guiding driving, law guiding politics, law guiding education, law guiding health, law guiding agriculture, etc. Policies is the body through which laws are made and splitted into various levels. If there are no policies, from where laws are going to be splitted? So the functions or the reason why we have government, for the first instance, I want you to note that we have government, number one, for policy making. It is after making the policy that decision can always be arrived. Where there is no policy, decision is not easy to be arrived. Number two, why do we have governments? We have governments for the purpose of making law and order, where we have initiated policies how things should be in the first instance. The second instance is having government for the purpose of making law and order. This should not go. No, from 8 to 5, that is it. You should be here. You are only going to be detained between now and 12. These are what the law is talking about. And as I have earlier said, where there is no law, that means that state, that country has nothing to say about. Has nothing to say about. So number three, functions or reason why we have government is what? Provision of social amenities. Provision of social amenities. That means that social services will be rendered. With the government, there are some certain things that private and individuals cannot do. There are some certain services that private and individuals cannot render. E.g. electricity, e.g. shipping. With the assistance of government, all these things could be done easier. Government can partner with individuals and this thing can be easily done. Rather, leaving individual alone. Construction of road, especially express on the high level. Without the intervention of government, it is not likely and it is not possible for any individual to volunteer to have the capacity, to have the synergy, and have the resources to construct express way from here to Ole-Ibadan because of the resources involved, because of the manpower involved, because of the activities it involved. So with the intervention of government, for having government, it now helps us to do the needful. In another development, making the fourth reason why we have government or functions of government is what we call international relations. Government of a state connects another country. If not for the sake of a government of a nation, it is not easy for a private and individual to connect a country on their own. If countries come together as international, it must be through the effort of the government of that nation. Meanwhile, one of that functions of the government is bringing international relations to our own government. Now, another countries can now relate with us, either in a political way, economic way, business way, or scientific way, technology, any way at all we can come together. Some countries, we partner with some countries, while some countries partner with us. Countries always like to partner with us on the areas of resources that we are so favorable. What are those resources that we are favorable? One of the resources that we are so favorable is known as what? Oil. With oil and gas, we are so proud in Nigeria. And there are some countries that don't have. So those countries that do not have enough would like to come near us, to relate with us, so that we can exchange. There should be a trade between us and them. This is what we are calling, or we are referring to international relations. Then another reason for government is for political reasons. When we talk about politics, when we talk about government, we say government does not belong to anybody. It belongs to you and it belongs to I. You are part of the government and I am part of the government. But as an individual cannot stand and appoint yourself to rule. In a democratic dispensation, you must be supported by people. People must support you to climb the ladder from the platform to the destination. And without the support of the government, how do you think these things are made possible? Who can fund a party? Even a political party that is formed by individuals, government of that state also supports the party by funding, so that the party will not die, that people can now come under that platform to contest an election. If there is no government to support that party, how do you think that party can stand? And the law says that you can only climb, you can only achieve your political ambition through a platform. That platform is what we call vessel, or the vehicle.